When in your life did you discover Derek Jarman?
I discovered him in the early 90s when he was dying of AIDS and dying very publicly. He was one of a relatively small number of people who made it known that he had AIDS because there was still at that time so much stigma attached to it. So his death was documented in the media and it was very, very painful and slow. And he finally passed away in February of 1994. I then really put him out of my mind because I associated him with contagion and horror and just really didn't want to know any more than what I'd seen. And then much, much, much later, I found the courage, because I needed courage, to read his diaries. I'd ignored them for so long because I thought they would be very depressing. So he wrote 2 volumes of diaries called Modern Nature and Smiling in Slow Motion that cover the last 5 years of his life. And to my great surprise, they were uplifting and witty and inspiring and funny and clever. Of course there is darkness there, but they were not what I was expecting at all. And so gradually within my own mind, I shifted my perception of him from kind of exiling him almost to wanting to know a lot more about him, and ultimately the last thing I ever thought I'd be doing, but playing him on stage. So it's been a very unusual journey.
And what was it like writing the play, and who were some of the first people you showed it to?
I think I did what I usually do with playwriting, which was to show the piece to as many people as I could, and particularly people who didn't know Derek Jarman. He is one of those people who one tends to either know very well and know a lot about him, or not really very much at all. And one of the experiences I've had with people coming to see the play is they'll say, "Oh, I wasn't sure what to expect." But that's really good, and I would prefer people not to know much about him actually before they see it, and just come and watch the piece, because if I'm doing my job well enough, you'll find out enough of what you need to know from watching the play.
And tell me a little bit about the setup, so what we see on stage and what Derek wears and the torch and...
Well, yeah, so it's directed by Louise-Young, who is a brilliant, brilliant, multi-skilled artist, performer, writer, director, dramaturg. And what I'd got after a year of work was just a script and a lot of words, but no idea in my head at all about how it would appear on stage, what would happen with it. And I actually had a few relatively sleepless nights thinking, I don't know how to do this. It was not like any other play I'd ever done where I had quite a clear idea what it would be like. And I just couldn't, I didn't know what you did with all of these words. So Sarah Lou, we did a week of rehearsal and we didn't open the script at all. And we spent the whole week with her playing pieces of music to me and just saying respond, or she would throw me a sheet that was lying around in the rehearsal room and say do something interesting with this. And it's amazing how much of what appeared to be what's sometimes disparagingly called silly drama games was actually incredibly fruitful and found its way into the finished piece. So her conceit was that the play should be very, very lo-fi, low-tech, not to be cheap and save money, but because Derek Jarman's aesthetic in all of his work was to use found objects to make something out of whatever was closest to hand, and sure, to spend money as and when you need to, but to have that slightly, like if you look at his movies, that they're a little bit Heath Robinson, they look a little bit made up on the fly, but in a good way, in a very fun and childlike and creative way. So Sarah Lou gave me a chair, a roll of brown wrapping paper, a bedsheet and a torch, and that's all I've got on stage, plus the aforementioned boiler suit, which was a sort of Derek Jarman visual trademark. again suggesting that man of action, the man of craft. You know, he wasn't just a sort of arty lovey. He was very hands-on. He made things, so the play just gives me a few small objects with which to construct the whole 52-year span of his life, and all hail to Sarah Lou, because I'm not embarrassed to say it's a brilliant idea, and very often people will say to me afterwards, "Oh, who had the idea of doing that in the play?" And almost invariably the answer is not me, it was Sarah Lou. So I give her huge credit for what she's done with this piece.
And what were some of the earlier reactions from the people that saw the play?
The reaction to it has always been amazing, in the sense that it's been seen by either a lot of people who didn't know much about Derek Jarman and subsequently do want to know a lot about him, or it's been seen by people who knew him. So, for example, quite a lot of people who cared for him when he was ill have been to see it and told me these most remarkable stories about those experiences with Derek. It's a very interactive piece, a word I used to hate, but I've grown to love it. There's a lot of audience participation, whether they think they're going to get it or not. And I try and play it as much as possible, just like I'm having a chat with the audience. So I want to get away from any idea that it's a play, and of course there is no fourth wall. Derek, I'm sure, would approve of that. He was someone who didn't believe in boundaries. And there's a feeling, I think, by the end of it, that we've all gone on a really powerful experience together. So, people say remarkable things after they've seen it. And they also say the nicest thing that a kind of sole trader performer like me, who writes, produces and performs everything, it's all down to me really. But they say the nicest thing, which is they touch you on the shoulder and say, keep doing what you're doing. So when you hear that, you know that you're on the right path somehow, I think.
If there was one place you could take this show, where would it be?
Dungeness. So Derek Jarman, for the uninitiated, had a cottage, Prospect Cottage, which he bought actually relatively close to the end of his life. He only had it for the last 7 years of his life. He was location scouting with Tilda Swinton. He saw it and kind of bought it on the spur, which again is another very Derek thing to do. And it's surrounded by shingle. It's a very unusual environment, Dungeness, very unusual indeed, and well worth visiting. And I think that is really Derek's spiritual home. He left an essence or a presence in lots of places, but probably most strongly in Dungeness, where he also created this garden in the shingle. Everyone said there's no point, you can't grow anything here, the environment is too harsh, but somehow he did it, and it's been preserved to this day. And I would love to do something as silly and reckless as trying to do a very physical play like this on some shingle outdoors, risking the weather. We're talking about trying to make it happen, and I suspect it probably will at some point, but I would really like to do that, yes.
And what impact has Derek Jarman had on your life, and how does that affect your everyday life?
Well, you can't play somebody for, I'm into the third year of doing it now, and it took a year to make. You can't go through all of that unless the person is really, or has really spoken to you in some way. So what I got from him was this sense of the need to be braver, to be bolder, to get on with things, because life is shorter than you think. He really, it pours out of everything he created, that feeling, that idea, that belief. And so every time I play him, I'm reminded that I should live more. And I should live more intensely. And it's that I want to pass on to other people. So, I do a play about Quentin Crisp, and I got this huge message from him about hanging in there when all seems lost. And all did seem lost to me at that point in my life when I really encountered him through his writing. And that message was hugely helpful to me, and I've tried to be the channel, the conduit to send that to other people. With Derek, it's all about, really living, being braver and bolder. And we're here in the Swallow Theatre in Scotland. This beautiful, magical space, which is perfect for this play. And we did a Q&A after the performance yesterday. And at the end of it, I saw a woman over in a corner looking a bit lost. And something made me go over to her and just put an arm around her and say, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I'm just wondering if I've been wasting my life." Now, that's how I want people to react to this play.
And if there was anyone that came to you for advice about writing a solo show, what advice would you give them? What would be your key points?
Well, don't give up, because the temptation or the urge to give up will come again and again and again. You write your first line, your first paragraph, your first draft, and you keep thinking, it's rubbish. It's not going to work. Nobody's going to listen to this. I don't know how to do it. I mean, if I had listened to those voices, then obviously I wouldn't be here right now. So I think absolute bottom and top line is don't give up. Because it's a very, very lonely business. And it's not for the faint-hearted. It just isn't. If you're going to do it well, and as I said, I wasn't exaggerating when I said it took me a year to write Jarman. It did, and there were whole days when I would change a couple of words, and that sat at the laptop for cumulatively 6 hours, and at the end of it, all I've done is altered 2 words. And then the next morning probably change them back again. It's not fun. I don't mind saying that writing is the least enjoyable part of what I do. I find it very, very tough, very grueling, very arduous, very frustrating. And thinking, if you get too far ahead of yourself and think, gosh, am I going to be doing this for a year? Again, you're likely to give up. So it's another of those examples in life where it's just take one step at a time, one day at a time. So don't give up. Get lots and lots of advice from people. Get people to read it. Don't pay too much attention to what they say unless a particular message is coming from all sides. So, for example, like the first play I wrote, which was about Patrick Hamilton, the writer, I had every bit of feedback from this is absolutely white-hot brilliant to I think it's terrible and I really recommend you don't pursue it any further. And in between, there were people who sort of, gave the more balanced view. But everybody, absolutely everybody said, I don't like the ending, don't think the ending works. Which indeed it didn't, and I changed it. Get advice, take it with a pinch of salt. And finally, don't wait for somebody to fund it. If somebody, whether it's the Arts Council or, the Bank of Mum and Dad, if they give you some money to make it happen, fine, don't turn it down. But don't wait for that. And, find the smallest stage you can or a room and make it into a stage and just mount the piece, just do it to 4 people. The first performance of Jarman was done to 4 people and we had a great time. So make it happen somehow, make it happen.
Okay, thank you very much for your time today.
of song, page after page, black and white